This is me from 2 years ago, a sheltered and naive high school junior who was absolutely terrified of the world ahead of her. This is Sarah Hall, a spunky, wine-loving 50-year-old who knew exactly who she was as far back as second grade. Sarah was my art mentor 2 years ago, and she helped force me out of my cramped nest of stability. 2 years ago, I was a girl who played safe in almost every choice I needed to make, from the flavor of ice cream that I wanted to the career that I wanted to pursue in the future. I knew hardly anything about what I truly wanted since I was so focused on making the right choices, but I knew one thing, that I liked drawing. Sarah did too. In fact, her entire life has been devoted to making her dream of being an artist come true. Me? Not so much. I was scared of declaring an art major in college because the whole starving artist stereotype terrified me. I wanted to ensure myself a steady career, but when I met Sarah, I realized that this ideal would get me nowhere, other than maybe a 9-to-5 job in a dark and dreary cubicle. Sarah was the opposite of safe. She dropped out of high school in senior year, purchased an art studio in her 20s, and single-handedly etched her name into the world of art and entrepreneurship. Even her art style was bolder than mine. While I stuck firmly to painting hyper-realistic portraits and landscapes, Sarah took wall paints and splattered them on a canvas randomly. In the beginning of my art internship, I did not care about any of this. I hated Sarah because of how different she was from me, and perhaps I was even a little jealous that someone like her could be so successful. Sarah, on the other hand, understood me. She knew from my paintings that I was passionate about art, but lacked the confidence that was necessary for me to move forward. At first she was gentle, quietly telling me over and over again that I didn't need to paint realistically. I kept making excuses, so eventually Sarah had enough and decided to physically snatch away the supplies that I had been using for the duration of the internship, and replace them with wall paints, glitter, collage paper, and spoons. I was told to paint a self-portrait in a crazy style that I had never done before, and of course I wasn't even allowed to use a reference. Never before had I been forced out of my comfort zone like this, and for weeks I struggled through many frustrations and arguments with Sarah, begging her to let me go back to my old, safe style of copying from a photograph. Sarah had none of my complaining, and kept pushing me to keep going because she wanted to show me that I was capable of breaking my own boundaries. Eventually, my reluctance to work on my sloppy painting faded, and I actually started to like the result that was appearing on my canvas. I was having fun, and this leap out of my boundaries was, surprisingly, a thriller. After a few weeks of vigorous paint splattering, my final piece was complete. What had first been literally painful to look at was now an interesting collage that stuck out entirely from my uniform pile of realism portraits. This step onto a path I had never treaded felt amazing, and I was proud of myself for tackling and eventually taming a completely new form of artwork for the very first time. Since my internship, I have begun experimenting with many different art styles apart from realism, and I have taken a number of bold steps in art that would not have been possible for me to take without Sarah's guidance. I have opened my own gallery in my garage, signed up for an internship with an abstract wood artist, and have teamed up with a local committee to make puppets for local parades. To Sarah, I say thank you. Just like her, I will continue to break out of my confinements and take the bold steps in my life that are necessary for me to succeed.